Welcome to the Living Proof Recovery Podcast. We're your host. I'm Evan. This is Brian. Tonight, we're going to start off with a little quote here by Inky Johnson. And I'm gonna go ahead and read that for you guys. And then Brian will just elaborate on what he gets from it. So the quote is, I love the process. I love the thought of working for what I want. And I firmly believe that you're never supposed to wish for it more than you're willing to work for it.
Hmm.
So what comes to mind for you with that?
So, first thing that comes to mind is if I'm relating this to recovery, right, is I hear a lot of people praying for outcomes that they want. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, they pray, please, But a lot of times with people, it stops there.
Yeah.
It stops with, so it said, you're never supposed to wish for it more than you're willing to work for it, right? So prayer by itself is meaningless.
Mm-hmm.
So like I can pray till the cows come home, but if I'm not willing to do my part, if I'm not willing to take some action, then nothing's going to happen. I heard a guy say one time that if you're starving and you go in a closet, if you go in that closet right there and you pray for a hot dog, what's going to happen? You're going to fucking starve. A hot dog isn't just going to appear in there, right? Like, you've got to put forth some action. Like, we have to do our part. We can't just sit back and expect God or whoever you're praying to just swoop down and save you. God's going to do his part. He's going to put us in situations, put us in position to do things, but he will not do for us what we can do for ourselves, right?
Absolutely.
I can't just sit on my dead ass and expect, Jesus to come down and just save me every time that I'm in hot water. I've got to be willing to work for the things that I'm praying for, the things that I'm asking for. So for example, if I'm praying for God to get me sober, right? So we see this a lot, and especially in a treatment center setting.
Yep.
Of I just want to get sober. I'm just trying to get sober. I'm just trying to get sober. And the kicker with that is dog, you're already sober, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're sober right now. You're not here to get sober. You're already sober. You're here to learn how to live in sobriety. But you're not here to get sober. Like God's already intervened. He drug you out of that gutter, separated you from that chemical, and put you here among people that are trying to help you. But it's up to you to do the work. You've got to take the action. He's already got you sober, but you've got to learn how to stay sober. And and part of that is prayer. Like, prayer is very important. Like, I don't want anyone to hear that thinking I'm saying you shouldn't pray. There's something wrong with praying, but I can pray for a better job all day long. But if I'm not out looking for a job, or if I'm not, working on my resume, or if I'm not applying myself in some form or fashion, then someone's not just going to show up on my front porch and be like, hey, we're hiring and we want to give you a job. It just doesn't work that way. That's just not reality.
Yeah, so that's one of the main things that comes to my mind as well when we read that quote. Because I know for me, for a long time, and I'm sure you can relate to that, how many times before you got sober this time did you little foxhole prayers and,
Oh yeah,
well, God's not there for me, and just like we were talking about a situation before we started recording.
how could God let this happen?
Right. Like, and, well, I see God doing all this stuff for other people, but he's not doing it for me.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work, and you know what I mean. That's just not. That's so far from the truth.
Yeah, poor me.
Yeah, and for me, so many times he did show up,
Yeah,
but I just chose to ignore it.
absolutely. We don't see the little blessing, like the little things that
Right.
happen. We we're not aware. We're not able to see it.
Right. For me, it was always, and just like the situation we were talking about, I understand it because I used to do that. Well, I thought, well, if I just ask him to do it, he's just going to do it.
Right. If he's
Just make me wake up tomorrow with no withdrawal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Where you
and
at? Where you
it
at?
just doesn't work that way. He put all these people in my life and all these different situations, and I just chose to not see them for what they were. So
Yeah. See, I was talking at Jeremy's Celebration Wednesday, and I kind of touched on this a little bit that we think we know what it's going to look like or when it's going to happen. Like it's going to happen. Here's how it's going to look. Here's how it's going to happen. Here's what it's going to look like. Here's how I'm going to feel when it happens. Here's when it's going to happen. And we don't have a fucking clue
right.
about any of those things, right? Like it could be working on our behalf, but I have it in my mind that it's going to look like this, or the person that helps me is going to look like this. That guy in the meeting is going to help me because he's got 25 years of sobriety. But in all reality, God might not be sending him to help me. He might be sending me the guy that's got 3 weeks of sobriety to help me. But I'm turning him away because he's only got 3 weeks because I want this guy over here to help me. But I feel like we handcuff ourselves a lot. We get this tunnel vision of what we think it's going to look like. And then when it doesn't work out that way, well, God wasn't here.
Yeah.
But we can't notice the little things that are happening, and because it's not working on our timeline.
Right. And this, we're never supposed to wish for it more than we're willing to work for it.
Yeah.
And that was me.
Mm-hmm.
I would always send up little, I don't know if you're real, but please save me. Just I won't do it again. Let's get me out of this situation.
Be here on the couch.
Right. Like I'll be waiting on you right here.
Right.
But it wasn't until this go around, like I can't wish for my sobriety more than I'm willing to work for it.
Yeah.
So, and that was early on in this, my sobriety, that, it was time to get to work.
Yeah.
If I really wanted this and I kept wishing for it and kept wishing for it, and God gave me this opportunity, now what was I willing to do for it?
Yeah.
How much work was I willing to put in? So that's this one.
The first
it hits home.
The first line, I love the process.
Oh yeah,
So-
that's
so-
the journey itself.
Right,
Getting to the process and the journey of it. How crazy was it when you did all these foxhole prayers all the time, not knowing what or who you're praying to, but then you found the process and the journey, and when your eyes really opened for the first time and it was revealed to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because if nothing changes, nothing changes, right? So the process, that means that there's some things that need to be done, right? So there's steps that need to be taken. And if I don't take those steps, if I'm just, like I said, just sitting around wishing, and I get it, like I'm not shitting on anybody. Like I totally get it. You don't know what you don't know. There's a lot of ignorance out there. There's things I'm ignorant about, things I don't know. But one thing I do know is that nothing's going to happen unless I take some kind of action towards that goal, right? So, but I can't be confused. So I can't be confused about what the process really is. What are the prime movers, right? Like it's kind of like if you were going to fix up your car and you want to race it at the speedway, right? What's the first thing you would work on, right? The engine. If we took your car out there right now and you're like, I'm going to race this car, first thing we would have to do is put a different motor in it, right?
Right.
We wouldn't put a racing stripe on the side of it and expect it to all of a sudden be able to compete,
Right.
or slap a spoiler on it, right? So those things can help. They look nice, but it's not really moving the needle, right?
Mhm.
So we got to focus on the process of things that actually move the needle, right? What moves the needle, right? Like, does just complaining about it move the needle? No, that's the racing stripe on the side.
Right.
Makes me feel better. It looks good sometimes because people are like, oh, he's really wants to change, but I haven't done anything. All I've done is complain,
Right.
about my situation, which I said, like, I get,
Mm-hmm.
but until we start working on the things that actually make a difference, then nothing's going to change. It might change temporarily. It might change for a week or something like that. Like, for instance, like going to treatment, that moves the needle. But it's not the engine.
Right.
That's maybe I got some really good tires on the car. I got some good brakes, some good stuff, improved the steering of it, but it's not going to make my car go any faster. It's not going to help me get to where I'm going. So that's a beginning. It's laying a foundation, and something that I see, unfortunately, a lot in the recovery community of people that are, feeling stuck, or like they feel like they're going backwards, is they think that treatment is going to fix them. They think that if I could just go to treatment, I'll be okay. And like I said, like, treatment, if you have the opportunity to go, 100% go.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely. Yeah.
it's a wonderful experience. It's a good place to get started. But that's what it is. Let's call it what it is, right? It's a start. It's not lasting. Like, you're not going to go to treatment and get out of treatment and then you're just good to go now. Like, life's still going to happen. You're still going to be in a bubble. And um, what kind of recovery would it be if you can only stay sober when things are going well?
Oh yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Absolutely.
because we're going to face trials and tribulations in our life. That's not that's not what's the word I'm looking for? It's not only for That's not only for people in recovery, right? Life happens. Life
Oh
is
yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
Like, recovery is hard, but it's hard because life is hard. And there's a lot of things that we have to deal with in
Right.
life. And
Right.
if I'm just focusing on the little small things, and don't get me wrong, like, it's good to work on those things. Like, those things need attention too, but they're not gonna really move the needle to where I'm trying to go. So I've gotta, and we tend to gravitate towards those things because they don't take as much work.
Right.
Yeah. They
Yeah.
come a little easier, like, oh, I went to a meeting. Okay, cool. That's great. Did you talk to anybody at the meeting? Did you ask anyone to sponsor you? Did you help out at the meeting? Well, no. I just went there and sat down in the back for an hour and then I left.
Yeah.
Well, okay. That's probably not going to do a whole lot.
Right. Right. You know, for kind of going off of that, like we spoke about, I've been in like a little bit of a funk this week.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And it's just the I guess this week and a couple people have noticed it. You know what I mean? And I'm still doing like my morning routine and all that stuff, but it's just this week, like the action hasn't been there for me. With other things that are have just life.
Right.
And life's going to show up, and I don't know, like nothing bad's happening. I was just in a funk. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? With work stuff, and then just it's just been on my mind. So I have to always try to bring myself back to the process because I can still use the process even in those situations. You know what I mean? And just like another quote that we were talking about earlier too. You know, people don't quit because of what they do, quit because of life makes us forget why we do it. And when we hit these points in our sobriety, for us, it doesn't have to be crazy life events that happen,
No, it's like
that
I
can,
woke up today.
right. So I
Yeah.
have to remind myself, like, why do I do this thing? And keep that in the front of my mind, even when I'm in a funk, like I have been over this last week. And nothing's, like I said, nothing terrible has even happened. It's mainly just been me in my own head.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Scary place to be.
Exactly. Scary place to be. And I probably should have talked to you guys all about it before now. You know what I mean? But it's just the process, and we can always go back to the process and get back to it. And just I have to keep reminding myself why I do what I do. Even, you know, when things aren't always on the up, because it's not always going to be sunshine and rainbows. It don't
No.
matter how long I've been sober now,
No, that's not reality.
Right. So, and there was something else. I just went blank on it that I was going to mention, but what are we doing in those times? What are we doing in those times? And I know for me, I need to get back grounded, not just staying in my daily prayer and meditation and doing all these things. Like I have to do, it's action for me.
Mhm.
I have to keep my feet moving.
Yeah.
That's, and there's another quote, and I wish I could remember it word for word. But you know, just about, it's a quote by Inky Johnson where he talks about um, how we move during times of trial and tribulation. Like when everything's all sunshine and rainbows, of course we're going to be smiling.
Right.
We're going to be happy and on the up and up. But when things aren't on the up and up, whatever the reason is, what type of character do we have? Who are we going to be? And and my wife, she was the first one to mention it. Like she just flat out like, "What the fuck's wrong with you?"
Right.
And I'm like, "Nothing's wrong with me." But
Nothing wrong with me. Why?
but again, like, why didn't I just tell her?
Yeah.
I don't know. Why didn't I just tell her? Because I feel like I haven't done enough this week.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't, why? But why didn't I? Maybe that's because it was just easier out to be like, nothing's wrong with me.
Well,
Instead of talking about it.
I'll tell you why. You know, it's because we're selfish, we're dishonest, we're self-centered, full of fear, and we're
Yeah.
inconsiderate.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
It's like I just was doing a fit step with Joe today, and it's funny you bring that up because that's part of the process, right? Of getting down to causes and conditions of what the truth is of why am I acting this way?
Mhm.
Why do I feel like this? Well, it's because most likely one of my instincts in some way has been affected, and I don't want to tell somebody because I'm full of fear, because I don't want them to judge me, or I don't want them to um, not validate the way I feel, and I'm being inconsiderate because I'm not considering that maybe they can help me with it. Maybe I think I'm selfish because I don't want them to look at me differently. I want them to think that I'm strong all the time, as a
Right.
man of the house. I want you
Yeah.
to think that nothing phases me. So, and I'm being dishonest,
Mhm.
because I'm
Yeah.
not telling you how I feel. And that's the truth, that we get down to that and it's like we can see that and it's like, oh, okay. So, that once I can see that, now I can take some action.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so, that's why I didn't tell her what was going on, but, so then that's the process. We get down to why we feel the way that we feel.
Mhm.
And you mentioned earlier, I don't think you mentioned it since we started recording, but we were talking about focus, right? Like how we can lose our focus and get complacent
Oh yeah.
because complacency is like what kills us. And not just in recovery. Of course, it does in recovery, but it's big too, like in our relationships. You know, that's why a lot of relationships don't last because we get complacent. We stop dating our partner, or you know, we stop doing the things that we did early on. So it's the correlation there is like it's very similar to sobriety when we relapse. It's like I stopped doing all the things that I did to get her, you know,
Right.
and then now I wonder why things are going to shit.
And I,
You know?
yeah, and that's true.
I'm not saying that's what you're doing, but I'm just saying, like,
Right.
you know,
But I understand that because that I've lived that.
right.
Just how it talks about life makes us forget why we do what we do. You
Yeah.
know, even in the past when I've been sober, whenever every time I've relapsed after having some time sober, it's because I let life make me forget why I'm doing this. And things are, you know, life can be going great paying job, you know, wife and kids are happy and all these
Right.
things. And I just let life,
Yeah.
and I slowly stopped doing all the things that got me to that point in
It's
life.
so easy to do.
It is so easy to do.
Yeah.
And even now with, you know, almost 4 years sober, you know, maybe that's why I was feeling that way this week too. Because I remember those things. I remember how it happened in the past, and I don't let myself forget it nowadays because I don't want to go back. You know, and I know I can get sick again real fucking quick.
Right.
You know, if I were to, obviously, talking to you guys about it and my sponsor and doing all those things, that's what I'm supposed to do, right? But for me, the action, you know, if I quit putting in the action, I know what'll happen.
Right.
You know, I know what it leads to. I've done it so many times. So, you know, just I
think
I
we get
can't
our
let myself.
standards
Yeah.
in life. We get our standards. Like whatever our standard is, that's what we tend to get.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so if I'm complacent and my standard is, well, I didn't drink today. Like if that's my standard, is just my only standard is I'm sober today, then that's all I'm going to get.
Yeah.
Right. And this is about recovery is not just about not drinking. It's about or not using. It's about so much more than that. Like that's just the tip of the iceberg. Like that's the beginning of it. So if I'm approaching it like just not I had a successful day today because I didn't drink. Well, that's a pretty low standard, you know, and maybe not early on in recovery, right? So I don't mean this. I'm not. I don't. After I said that, I kind of heard how it sounded. Like I didn't mean it to sound like it's not a big deal if you didn't drink today, right? Because it is. That is a big deal.
Yeah, it's
right?
huge.
But that's not the only thing, right? Because if that's my only goal, then I'm not growing. You know, the goal is to, like I said early on, like that's goal number one, right? Just don't put nothing in my body today. But after a while, if I don't start to experience life, if I don't start to have higher standards for myself, then I'm going to get complacent and recovery is going to feel like a hassle.
Yeah.
And it's going to feel like something that it's not really worth the juice isn't worth the squeeze anymore, right? Because it's like I'm just grinding through every day trying to not drink today. And that's hell on earth, man. Like that's not living. That's not recovery. That is abstinence. And there's a difference between those two, right? There's a big difference because just being abstinent or dry, I'm not going to be able to do that for too long. You know, because all I've done is remove the one thing that got me through the day.
Yeah.
So I have to fight to get through every day and every moment of every day. And I don't want to live like that. That's not my standard. Like I have a higher standard for my life than that.
Yeah.
Like I said, like in the beginning, sure, right. But after I've got a little bit of time, I can't get complacent and just be happy with that because I've heard guys say things to me like, just for, you know, yeah, I'm cheating on my wife,
Yeah.
stole from work today. But I didn't drink today, so I had a successful day. And I'm like,
Right.
no, you didn't.
Right.
You're a
No,
disgrace,
yeah.
bro. Like, what do you, like that
Yeah.
is not a successful day. That is not what
Right.
this is about, right? This is about like being a changed person and like helping somebody and having a good life,
Yeah.
not harming people.
Yeah.
It's like not just, oh, I didn't drink today, so I killed two people, but
Mhm.
I didn't drink today. It's a
Yeah.
extreme example, but I think you can understand what I'm saying.
Oh yeah,
You know,
absolutely. And I think for me it's like especially this week, and I just started thinking about it now, like gratitude.
hmm
I haven't really been, maybe that's part of it as well. This week, this funk I've been in, like I haven't shown my gratitude.
yeah, gratitude's all about action.
Right. I haven't shown that. Even at home, like I haven't, if I'm being
hmm
honest, and I'm sitting here thinking about it and like I was just like I said, I've been in a funk. If I'm being all the way honest too, I didn't even want to do this tonight. I'm just being
Right.
honest. I didn't. But that goes into this whole process of like I said I'm gonna do this thing.
hmm
So here I am. And now that, we're talking about it and like I'm starting to just think about things like that. And I'm like, man, like, how have I made my wife feel this week?
Right.
Like, if she noticed it, like, have I just been walking around a dick? But and then even a coworker had mentioned it to me. So I'm like, man, like, something's off with me, obviously. You know what I mean?
hmm
So I just, you know, I, but this has helped me start to think about it and like, okay, I can get out of this real easily. And I know that. And this has
Yeah.
already started to help just talking about it. But I think it's also good to show that this shit happens to all of us, no
100%.
matter if you're a
Oh yeah.
week sober or 4 years or 20 years, whatever it is. You
hmm
know what I mean? This is just part of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's
It's
how we
life.
how we respond to it and how we move forward is
Yeah.
what matters.
Yeah. I mean, people that aren't alcoholics and addicts, they deal with the same thing.
Hmm.
People have good days and good moments, bad moments.
Yeah.
It's just part of life.
Because I can't honestly, like, nothing has happened.
Right.
You know I've just been in this fucking funk for some reason. Like nothing has happened.
That's a good point because I know you mentioned it earlier too, but it just kind of went over my head. But it just hit me just now that, that's another thing that we look at as far as the process when we're putting the spoiler on the car, right? We look at, I've got to avoid sticky situations. I got to avoid triggers.
Mhm.
These things are what's going to make me um, use again, or they're going to affect me emotionally. I have to avoid these things at all cost. But you're sitting here telling me that nothing's going wrong, and yet you've had a rough week.
Right.
So these triggers and all these things, like that's not the process. That's not the solution. To avoiding things is
Mhm.
not the solution to the problem.
Right.
And I think that's where a lot of people in early recovery um, get caught up because it's like I've got to avoid these people, places, and things, and I'll be okay. As long as I stay in a state of, I don't have too many highs, I don't have too many lows, then I can stay sober.
Mhm.
And that's just not true. It's not, because there's plenty of times when I drank when things were going great.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's
Oh
plenty
yeah.
of times when I drank when things were going shitty.
Hmm.
There's times when I drank when I had money in my pocket. There's times when I drank when I was broke.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like my circumstances aren't a prerequisite at whether or not I'm going to relapse.
Hmm.
So I can't rest on my laurels, right? I can't get complacent. Back to complacency. Like just because things are going good, I can't take my foot off the gas.
Hmm.
It's like I'm cruising to the finish line, but I'm just going to let off the gas, and everyone's going to blow right past me.
Yeah.
But
No.
things can go good and still
Yeah, and I
be
can,
bad.
I guess, just coming from my background and what I do for a living, and when I was in sales, and I was always taught, even in car sales, that process over product.
Hmm.
So I'm even sitting here thinking, like, yeah, like
Explain a little bit.
so like in sales, obviously, like in car sales, you have to have a good product,
Right.
but the process,
How you present it.
how you present it, and how we get to the product,
Right.
you know what I mean, is what's important. So it's kind of even the same way here, and
Identification.
right, and getting there. Like obviously we're the product
Right.
as in recovery, you know what I
Right.
mean, but the process of getting us here to this point. And even in car sales, I even when I would go through slumps in car sales and not selling, it's because I was pushing
Mhm.
product, not process.
Right.
You know what I mean? So even in recovery, I'm thinking about, like, yeah, I'm now, I guess I can say I'm more like the product stage, but let's get back to the process
Right.
of the work and the action leading up to that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Makes a lot of sense, really. I mean, we can probably look at anything in life
Mhm.
that way.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned earlier, the journey.
Mhm.
You know, I don't know. I just
It's just like
complacency, man.
we have to stay in the process.
Yes.
That's what I'm getting at. It's
Yeah.
like I have to stay
It's
in this
really
process,
real
all of it.
easy to get off that, to get out of it.
Right.
It's really, but it's really, sometimes it's hard to get back on. It depends on like where we're at, in our sobriety.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
early on, it's really hard to get back on track once you get just a little bit off.
Oh
It's
yeah.
really hard. I've experienced that a lot in my life. It's like, I'm not going to that meeting tonight,
Hmm.
or I don't feel like it, or I'm going to blow off something. And then it makes it a lot easier to not go to the next one,
Hmm.
or the next one, and the next one. Before you know it, I'm not doing shit,
Yep.
you know. Um, but yeah, I mean, rest of like the process, you know, if you want something different, then we've got to do something different.
Hmm.
And I'm gonna go back to nothing changes, nothing changes. Like I just keep saying that, but it's so true.
It is. Yeah.
And there's a lot of recovery slogans that I just can't stand, that I
Yeah.
hate.
Yeah.
But
And
some of them are spot on.
yeah.
Like that is spot on.
Yeah. And like sometimes it's as easy as like right now for me, sitting here thinking about it, like if nothing changes, nothing changes. All right. So I've made a lot of changes through this journey, but like that even plays into my perspective,
Mhm.
right? Like it's real easy to me to catch in the negative, which is what I've done this week.
Mhm.
I've caught the negative of so many things, and I've let my perspective of it drive that.
Yeah.
So if I can change my perspective, I can probably get out of this funk a little easier
Yeah.
and not let the negative win. Change my perspective to see the positives. Even if they're hard to see, we can always find them, whatever that is. So, I think a lot of that this week has been, if nothing changes, nothing changes. But I just I never attempted to change my perspective on things that I was in my head about, which was a lot of it was work related, is what it was. A lot of it was work related, thinking about just situations at work and what I want differently, or you know what I mean? And I was letting it all negatively affect me.
Mm-hmm.
But throughout my entire days, even at home, obviously, because my wife noticed it, that I was off, so.
Things carry over.
Right.
You mentioned earlier, or I want to go back a little bit. So there's another saying in recovery that I think is spot on, and it's when the body heals, the liar returns. Right. So you're talking about perspective. So when I start to feel better, I'm detoxed, and I start to feel better, my mind starts talking to me, and my perspective at that time or early, anytime or like early in sobriety, if I haven't done the work yet, then my perspective is that of a selfish, self-centered individual. So my perspective is almost always going to be wrong. Like I'm going to look at things the wrong way. So I heard someone say one time that constantly staring at the dark doesn't tell you anything about the light. So if I'm constantly looking at the bad in the world or my situation, my relationship, I'm never going to see the good stuff, right? Mm-hmm. That's kind of what we were talking about earlier, like how if things aren't going my way, I think God's not working for me, or He doesn't exist, or he's out to get me, and that's because my perspective, because I'm just looking at all the bad stuff. There might be 10 other good things that are going on in my life, but I can't see them because of my perspective. And I believe that our character is like built in between it's up here, right? So what I think I do, what a person thinks they typically do, so like if I think that God's not going to help me, then I'm going to see all the ways that He's not helping me, right? Yeah. But if I think, well, maybe God can help me, then maybe I'll start to see some of the ways that He can, right? Or if I think I'm a worthless piece of shit, or I don't deserve anything, I'm probably not going to get anything, because that's my character, and I don't need more faith. What I need is more truth, so what I mean by that is I can have all the faith in the world, but let me back up a little. So like I think a lot of us, we come into recovery based on a lot of lies and half-truths, right? So I think that my problem is opiates. That's my problem. That's my truth as I understand it, right? So my next step is to not do opiates, right?
And you're cured.
And I'm cured, right?
Right.
But the problem is that I can't not do opiates, So I'm out trying to do something that only God can do, right? Which is relieve me of that obsession to use opiates. And what I'm doing is I'm thinking I'm avoiding the problem, which is opiates, but all I'm doing is walking around with the problem, which centers in my mind, so that's where my character is. My character, it's all based on half-truths and lies because I misunderstand what the problem is. So I keep coming up with the wrong solution every time. The solution is to just don't drink. That's never worked for me.
Right.
Because that's not the real problem. So if I'm constantly focusing on the things that aren't really the problem, I'm never coming up with a real tangible solution. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I kind of went off, got deep there for a second, but it's like I see that all the time. Like if my car breaks down on the side of the road because I'm out of gas, but I identify the problem as my battery's dead, and I have someone jump my battery, my car's still not going to start
Right.
because I haven't diagnosed the problem correctly.
Yeah.
You know, and that character, until I can put in some action and then take some steps in this new life, then I don't have a lick of character because I haven't taken what I've learned and applied it to my new life. That's where I build some some character at.
Mhm.
You know, as I take the things that I learned in recovery and apply them to my life. Now I've got some character. Now I've got some integrity. Now I've got some courage. You know, I'm hopeful. I'm honest. I'm disciplined. I'm responsible. Right? I've got all these things going. Now I've got some character. Right? And before I didn't have any character. You know, because everything was based on things that I think I can do. Does that make sense? Like I think that I can do all these things. I think that I can keep myself sober. I think that if I just catch that one break, that if they just stop making alcohol legal, then I won't have to drink anymore. You know,
Right.
like, or if they take kratom off the shelves, I won't have to
Yeah.
worry about my disease anymore. It's just
Right,
going to be
right.
gone. You know, and that's not reality.
No,
Like
not
that's
at
the
all.
furthest thing from reality. It's based on a lie
Yeah.
that I believe.
Mhm.
You know, and we sell ourselves on those things.
Yeah.
If only this would happen, I could. You know, we've been going through the refuge stuff, and this is exactly what I can't be happy until dot dot dot.
Yeah.
This happens. I will be
Yeah.
okay when this happens.
Yeah.
So when they take kratom off the shelves, bye bye addiction.
Right.
It's gone.
Yeah.
You know, no, it's something else that's gonna take its place.
Mhm.
Whether it's a toxic relationship or gambling or overeating or heroin or fentanyl or
Yeah.
alcohol, something else is gonna take its place because the problem is still there.
Right. It
Because
always
we're the
goes.
problem.
Yeah. Luckily, we know that today.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, I didn't
and-
always know that.
No, I didn't either. And there's several examples popping in my head right now of all of these things. And, sometimes I just want to like reach through the phone and grab a motherfucker and just be like, just
Yeah,
listen, just
please.
listen. I wish somebody would have done that to me
Yeah.
so much sooner. I'm just grateful that I'm able to identify these things today.
Yeah.
And like all this week, I knew I was in a funk, and I knew the problem behind it was the action, that I'm
Mhm.
not taking any action, but I still didn't take action, even though I
Right.
knew. And I think some of that was because it was some of those situations were, I did to myself. Like, for example, like missing certain meetings this week because my wife had things that she wanted to do. And of course, I want to make her happy.
Right.
But so I'm like, okay, go ahead and do that. That's cool. But in turn, it's, you know what I mean? Sometimes it's like, put yourself on the back burner a little bit to make someone else happy. Like that stuff can be dangerous too,
Yeah, for sure.
and, she had these plans and that was fine. But it was just kind of like all these things were leading into one this
Well,
week.
that's typically how it happens.
Yeah.
Right. It's not like it's not typically some big catastrophic event.
Mhm.
Now, those things do happen, but for the most part, we don't see it coming.
Right.
It's like one little thing happens, and then another little thing happens. I'm fine. Another little thing happens. I'm fine. Another little,
Yeah.
38 little things happen, and then one little thing happens, and we blame that one thing.
Mhm.
Like, oh, well, I relapsed because she broke up with me.
Right.
Or I was walking down the beer aisle at the grocery store.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have walked down that aisle. I know better. No, that's not what did it. It's like these other 37 things that we didn't take action on
Right.
that led up to that. And that was the last straw that broke the camel's back. It's like playing Russian roulette. Eventually, there's going to be a bullet in that chamber.
Yeah. And then, today though, I'm able to see these things, and thank God that's not where my mind goes, is
Right.
to drink and drug.
Right.
Like that never crosses my mind nowadays.
Yeah. I'm talking about more like people early on in
Right,
recovery.
right. But going back to early on, like it would have been real easy. Like the way I felt this week, you know what I mean? If I wasn't in the position I'm in, that would have been my thoughts,
Right.
and I've experienced that years ago, and I'm very grateful that nowadays it's not an option for me. It doesn't come to my mind like that now.
Right.
But I also know that if I don't get back into the action and do all these things, I know where that leads, and thank
Right.
God I know that today.
Because you know what's wrong with you.
Right. I'm able to identify, know what's wrong with me.
Yeah.
So I'm just grateful for it, man. So this has definitely helped me tonight. I needed
But
to
I think
come out and do this.
it's a very common thing. Like I've had plenty of weeks like that. I remember distinctly calling you one night when I was at a wedding. We were at Copper and Kings, and I had the worst night probably that I've had in sobriety, as far as just wanting to grab somebody by the throat the whole night. Like people, I was just so irritable. Like I haven't been that irritable, and that was the most irritable I've been in recovery. Like, and I don't remember what led up to that. I was probably not treating the things that I need to treat. I probably got a little complacent, and then I went there, and it wasn't like I wanted to drink or anything like that. It was just like, God, these people are getting on my fucking nerves. Like everyone's drinking, and which that doesn't bother me, But I was just like, I was just so annoyed. I was just like by everybody, I was discontent. I was like, I want to be anywhere but here.
Yeah.
And I was just, my wife was like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Fuck no, I'm not."
Right.
Pissed off.
But
And it's like, I didn't hardly know anybody, and I'm sitting by myself, and I was just sulking, and I was just like, man, like I got to get out of this.
Yeah.
And I called you, and I was like, bro, like these people are driving me fucking crazy. Like I'm just so irritable. And we left, and I had to ride home with my drunk mother-in-law, and she's giving me a hard time about why I'm not having a good time, and I was just like, oh, just gotta get you home, and I was just ready to snap. It can happen so quickly, because it wasn't like leading up to that night I was like, man, I'm really irritable. It wasn't. I might have been. I just might not have identified it. But once I saw it for what it was, I was like, man, like I need to call my boy. Like, I need to touch base with somebody.
And that's like we know what to do nowadays.
Yeah.
But no, I think I think it was good to get this out here. Even I hadn't spoke about it, how I was feeling this week to anyone.
Right.
Until now. Probably wasn't the best decision to to wait so long, you know what I mean? But but I do think it was good to we're always wanting to be just real with what we're doing here, and the reality is this is going to happen at times, but how do we respond to it? How are we going to move forward? I know how I'm going to move forward, you know what I mean? And I hope somebody else can get something out of what we've talked about tonight, about even having some time sober, and just, shit's going to happen, life's going to happen. And, how do we respond to it?
Yeah. I just kind of want to throw it out there because I kind of feel like my choice of words earlier might have been poor, because I don't want to come across like I'm trying to be a dick, because I know that early recovery is hard. Like I've been there. Like it's really hard. But just complaining about it, isn't going to fix anything.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't, that might hurt some people's feelings,
Mhm.
and that's okay. Like, that's not my intention. I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. But I just want people to try to maybe understand that there's a different way of doing things. And I didn't know that until, like you said, someone had to grab me basically and shake me and be like, look,
Yeah.
motherfucker, like, what the fuck are you talking about? Fuck your feelings.
Yeah.
You know? And I was like, damn. Like, but he was right. I'm so grateful that somebody did that. Multiple people did that.
But I think, and then in turn, it comes down to the willingness.
Yeah.
Like the quote said, or we can't wish for it more than we're willing to work for it. And for
Exactly.
me, it was just always about I wanted it, but I wasn't willing to do the work,
All the work.
all the work. Yeah,
Yeah.
I just
Did
was.
some.
I just maybe I did some, but
Yeah.
and that comes with everybody's different bottom.
Hmm.
And when you're really only we know when we've really had enough, and when we're really willing to put in the effort and get honest and do the real work, because I've half-assed it several times,
Right. Yeah.
and got the same result in the end, and until this time when I really had enough and was really to fully do the work, ready to do the work.
And the thing is, though, it's not nearly as much work as what people think it is.
It's not.
It's
No.
really not. It's not. That doesn't mean it's easy, but
Mhm.
it's not nearly as bad as this picture that we paint in our head of it's just going to be just this grueling process.
Right.
Like, it's really not.
Mhm.
You mentioned rock bottom, or these bottoms that we hit, and I was talking about it Wednesday night when I was speaking, and we can hit 1,000 bottoms. Like, it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is if we don't surrender at one of those bottoms, we're just going to keep hitting bottoms. That's what's going to happen. I love how you like nonchalantly
Trying
fix that.
to
Yeah.
fix it
Yeah.
because for some reason it just popped off.
But I can hit like I said, 1,000 bottoms. But if I don't surrender at one of those, then I'm just going to keep hitting bottoms. And we don't have to go all the way to the bottom in order to recover. We really don't.
Right.
There's a lot of other people that have hit those bottoms for us that we can learn from.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's kind of where my passion comes from, is that I don't want to see people hurt more than what they have to.
Mhm.
It's like, just take some fucking action, man. just do something different. Like, it's really that simple. If what you're doing isn't working, let's try something else.
Yeah.
Like, that's, but, just wishing for it's not going to change anything,
Right.
unfortunately.
Yeah. I wish it did.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
All right.
All right.
Well, anything else before we wrap it up?
No.
I'm just over here trying not to piss on myself.
Okay. Yeah. That's all I got, man.
All right. Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.